to an exclusive on Pod Hub Network. Your city, your podcast.
To the delight of this crowd, McClendon marches down the dugout steps with first base. McCutcheon's throw. The runner breaks to the plate. Here's the throw. Wow. He is out. The Buccos win it. That ball's hit well to left center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Yo, 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 welcome to Starbucs. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, Jim Rosati. Jim, what is up? We're talking after a Pirates series victory and the start of another. So how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing excellent. Little tired, but I'll get some coffee in me. It'll be all good. But yeah, winners of 3 of 4. How about that?
Crazy. This is the Pittsburgh Pirates of 2021. They're good.
They're good. Still can't sweep anybody though.
Of course not. Hey, I mean, I don't want to say you jinxed it, but you're out there Sunday. Oh, guys, I got a feeling, guys. Yeah, that's not happening. Pirates cannot sweep anyone.
Well, they're making Adam Wainwright look like he's 27.
It's ridiculous. I mean, he is good. He's having a good season, but he comes out there. Yeah, he looks incredible every time he plays the Pirates.
I mean, he's been ace-like, like true ace-like.
Right. I don't know why your audio, I swear, like once a show, you just disappear and people can't hear it now. So you're talking about J Happ looking ridiculous as well. I'm going to kind of fill in because there you are. You're back, Jim.
Are we there? Are we back? All right.
You went Anthony
Cool.
Alford on us.
I just, felt like striking out swinging a few times. Yeah, no, J Happ, they finally, got over the J Happ hump and beat him. So that was good to see. But yeah, couldn't get a run off of Wainwright again.
No, clearly. So, but I mean, listen, I guess once again, as we keep pointing out, it depends on which side of the fence you're truly rooting for this year and such. I mean, I know even the most cynical fans that want the number 1 draft pick are, excited to the extent of the wins. But again, depending on the side of the fence you're on, the Pirates looked decent these past few games, and yes, they did win that series. It was a good series. Like, I feel like all these games have been actually kind of fun to watch. It's been very rejuvenating after watching the first 21 games or so, give or take, whatever it was before the series.
Yeah, no, it was a good series. And yeah, I don't think anybody should be rooting for the team to lose. Like, the team's bad enough; they're going to lose.
Well,
So it's like
there's this set that is actively rooting because they're the anti-Pirates and everything. But there's also this set that's like, I'm a fan, but I want the number 1 pick. They're out there, I'm just saying. Even those fans have enjoyed baseball.
I get wanting the number 1 overall pick, but I don't know. Like, if I'm going to sit down and watch a baseball game for 3 hours, I don't want to watch like what the Diamondbacks looked like last night. Like, if I were a Diamondbacks fan, I would not want to sit and watch that game. That would not be entertaining to me.
I mean, I disagree. And I mean that because if I was in that situation, like, that was actually a decent game.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks though they just did everything they could. I don't want to
watch all the games that the Pirates have played after the deadline up until the Cardinals series. Like, that's what I'm getting. Like, those games have been pathetic. At least to me last night, even as a Diamondbacks fan, I feel like it's semi-entertaining.
I don't know. Diamondbacks just did every single thing they could in their power to lose that game, and it was just enough.
I mean, they took the lead. They took the lead.
They took the lead.
It was a 5-2 lead. Honestly, at that point in time, I felt the Pirates might as well pack it in. got to score at least 4 more runs.
Somehow they did it. That 7th inning was kind of wild.
It really was. 3 straight walks, loads the bases. And then who was up with the bases were loaded? Was it Reynolds?
Hayes was up.
Was it Hayes first? Maybe it was Hayes. They clearly could have walked as well. I think it was 3-0.
Well, that was actually the 8th inning, wasn't it? I guess there were 3 walks that was the 8th inning. The 8th inning, they walked the bases loaded because the Pirates scored a run in the 8th on no hits.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The 4th is when Yoshi, started off with a pinch hit home run.
Yes.
And then Brian Reynolds hit a 2-run double. Or 2-run single or triple or something.
Oh, yeah, it was the triple.
Triple, yeah. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. But anyways, no, last night's game was entertaining. Yeah. I guess
it was fun. Yeah.
I definitely want to talk about a few guys here, Yoshi being one of them. We could wait. I guess overall there's, I don't know, going back to the Cardinals series, anything else stand out? I mean, I guess let's highlight in point. David Bednar did get his first save. Pirates actually gave him a save opportunity. He looked good. Now, of course, we can't, flash back to last night as well. His second save opportunity where he also shut it down and looked good. So David Bednar, we talked about him. I feel like it was last show or the show before that, he's looking really good. He's being a very, very effective reliever. Mm-hmm. I would just like to see him get in better situations, save opportunities, higher leverage. Pirates haven't been able to afford him that opportunity. And then, of course, since that show, now they have. So far, with that being said, still things all good.
Yeah, and even going back to the St. Louis series, it all started really on Friday. So Friday, Keller goes out there and finally has a good start. Like that was refreshing to see. So Keller goes 5 scoreless. And then Bednar came in the 7th with guys on base, got out of that jam, and then pitched a scoreless 8th. So, he got into a high leverage situation there in the 7th with the lead and runners on, and he was able to shut the door. But yeah, he then gets his first save on Saturday. Yeah, so Saturday gets his first save. Another decent start put together by Dylan Peters. So, I mean, at least he's gone out there twice now and shown that he's at least capable of it. Like I don't think anybody here should have any long-term expectations about Dylan Peters, but that's 2 starts now, and he's been fine. So, so not bad there. How about Chad Kuhl's return to the bullpen? That happened this weekend. Boy.
It did. It's a little bittersweet. And I say that because I've talked about it, and we talked about before this season. I felt Chad Kuhl would be a really good bullpen arm. I just also felt Chad Kuhl could be a good starter. So that's the bittersweet part. It's bitter because it seems like maybe the Chad Kuhl starter story is now gone, at least with the Pirates. So I'm a little sad because I had high hopes for Chad. I wanted to be vindicated on Chad Kuhl. But that's over. It's bullpen Chad Kuhl. So I'm happy, and let's make that a success. But I would say it was interesting his first time out.
Yeah,
he got the least.
A little bit of trouble there. Gave up a run, 3 hits in an inning.
Mm-hmm.
A couple strikeouts though to get out of it, but he looked a lot better last night.
So yes, I would say that first outing, right? He was getting wrecked. His slider was getting wrecked. They're hitting off of it, and then he said, "Bye-bye slider." Pulled out the 4-seam and just struck everyone out. It was just weird because in one outing, it was like Chad Kuhl's been Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, right? Like in every start, right? He'll have 2-3 good innings and then just falls apart and nothing's there. And he did the same thing in just one inning. So you still couldn't get rid of it. It was still there. He came out, looked terrible. I was shaking my head, and then all of a sudden he just went, boom, strikeout, inning over. Get off.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about Chad Cole a lot on here.
Sorry.
I think in an ideal world, Chad Cole is a relief pitcher, right? Like if we're talking about a good team, Chad Cole's not in the starting rotation.
Okay.
But I mean, the Pirates have just been forced to put him in the rotation year in and year out because he's been a top 5 starter. Like you can't tell me that any year, I mean, from 2016 on, he's been a top 5 starter on this team, maybe even top 4. He hasn't been even like that last guy. Like he's been a contributor, a solid contributor to that. I mean, not solid, but he's been a contributor to the rotation.
There's not been many solid
every single year. Yeah, there are not 5 starting pitchers in the organization who are capable of throwing Major League Baseball games better than him, and it hasn't been that way in a while. So the Pirates have kind of been forced to throw him into a starting role just because he's been one of their best starters. But yeah, I think ideally he's a reliever. I like this move to put him in the bullpen the rest of the year. I'm curious on if this is just like a short-term thing to monitor innings, or if this is like going into next year, Chad Cole is a reliever. Like I'm kind of curious to see what the long-term play is.
I am 100% with you on that as well. That I am very curious at, because is this maybe their way of? I mean, they tried. He's finally back. He's finally healthy. New pitching coach, right? Like, let's show him off. Let's possibly trade him at the deadline. And he was a disaster in the starting rotation. So is this maybe their way of let's sneak him into the bullpen, and maybe he has some success, and maybe he becomes a trade chip or something. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm playing at with his right now. I don't see how you can make this a permanent thing though, because we talk so often about how they need starting pitching. Like, I just assume next year he has to be open to be in the rotation again, because who's it going to be?
Right.
So I'm with you. I'm curious.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense to go into spring training and Chad Cole is competing for a rotation spot.
Right.
Just because, like, who else is going to do it? Obviously, we don't know what they're going to do during the offseason here. They may bring in some arms, but yeah, I mean, as of right now,
unless bullpen Chad Cole becomes lights out and now becomes a commodity, in the offseason.
I don't think Chad Cole is a commodity for anybody in this offseason.
I'm just saying, if he is, maybe this is just a thought. What if, right? This is like a last ditch effort. What if he go in the bullpen and he just completely is lights out, and it's like, oh, Chad Cole is a great bullpen arm. Let's go after him. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, what if? It's a potential. All right, let's go. Move on, Jim. God.
All right. You're right. That's always a possibility.
Just like Polanco getting picked up by another team is a possibility.
Right. And us not having to pay him the rest of the year or pay his buyout.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. So, God. I guess we can move on from Chad Cole, is what you're saying. We've talked too much about him.
Yeah, that's fine. That's enough. That's enough. Any Chad Cole is too much Chad Cole talk.
Ridiculous. Fine. So let's move on to the next beloved person that's coming around in Pittsburgh, because all fans have is to. I mean, you have, of course, Reynolds and Hayes, but that's not enough. You have to find like the next Rule 5 guy, the next DFA guy that just comes in and has a couple good games and just make him like the cult hero. Let's talk about Yoshi. I think you were pretty much on the same page. I think you actually like tweeted it out to the degree, but he's another guy, right? He was interesting. He was interesting enough that the Rays and the Dodgers both had him on their team, but then not interesting enough that they both said, "Well, we don't want you on the team anymore." So Pirates being the third team now to pick him up. I looked at it just as, I mean, it's a guy. It's a guy. Let's see what happens. But now he's got 3 home runs. I guess what I wanted to talk about is, so again, with these expectations, they're tempered with me. Like, I'm not looking at this and saying, oh, you know, we got Yoshi, the Pirates could have like this legit player or whatever. But what I will say is he does provide at least some interesting stuff. When Nagowski was on the club, Nagowski was never interesting, right? Never in the minors, like never with the Cardinals. Like, he wasn't really an interesting guy. He just came over, and what happened was he came over and had a ridiculous couple of weeks, and of course became the cult hero that he became, right? But even with those interesting weeks, right? Even when Nagowski was at his best, he didn't hit for any type of power, right? I mean, he's a first baseman. Then he kind of fall flat, right? So if you can't hit for power, and of course you can't hit for average and such and all that, like, you're not going to be in a major league club, which Nagowski wasn't. With Yoshi, even though he has failed, he has that intriguing power to him, right? You know it's there. He's got the raw power. I mean, that's why he was signed to the major leagues, right? He's never really displayed it and showed it, at least in the major leagues. When he went back down to the AAA this year, he did again. But again, now, you know, he's with the Pirates. Very, very small sample. He's hitting homers. What are your thoughts on Yoshi? Anything?
So, there is like, I will say, I'm not sure if like interesting is the right word to use, because it's not like he's a prospect or anything. Like, he came over from Japan at age 28.
Mm-hmm.
He's 29 now. Actually, yeah, 29. But he was good enough in Japan that the Rays felt like he was worth giving a 2-year, $12 million contract to. You know, the Rays don't usually dish out $6 million a year just to like anybody. So like the Rays found him intriguing to bring him on board. He certainly has some power, like you said. Like, that's pretty much his tool, right? His strikeouts are always going to kind of keep him from being like a good hitter, like overall hitter. But yeah, the power's there. Like, and that, I think that's pretty well documented. His rookie year in 2020, 8 homers, but if you count, in at bats, 8 homers and 157 at bats. So he's homering at once every, if you're starting every game, he's homering once every 4 games, essentially, 4 or 5 games. So he certainly has the power, which is something that this lineup just is in desperate need of, because there's just no one there who's capable of doing it. I actually like bringing him in because I feel like you can now play him a little bit down the stretch here. He plays he plays first base and left field, so he can do both. He's not
Also
exactly
something
the best fielder in
Nagowski
the world.
really couldn't do.
Yeah, but he's not the best fielder in the world, but he can play more than just first base.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this move because and I'll have to kind of refresh my memory on how this works. Like, I know if you come over from Japan, like, are you still subject to the whole 6 years thing? I don't think you are.
So I don't quote me, but I don't believe he is.
Okay. So like, he's a free agent at the end of the year. Like, it's not like we can just say, hey, we're going to keep you, even though he only has 2 years of service time.
Right. And it does list here, yeah, he is a free agent in 2022.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, when I first saw this, I was like, well, maybe this is somebody, like, they're giving him a tryout, and then if he works out, they either keep him for next year. But I don't know if that's really an option. But I think he's just a guy at this point, mm-hmm. who can get some at bats, and he can provide some power. I'm okay with the move. I'd rather see him than some other guys who are on the roster. So
sure.
I'm totally cool with him getting some playing time. I don't know if there's a whole lot of like long-term justification to doing any of it. But again, you want to see some power, and he at least provides that.
Yeah, I think that's all fair to say about him. This is probably going to be probably going to be one of those cases where, because he's hit the 3 home runs now, like, it's a detriment to him, because people are feeling like, oh my god, like Charrington did it. They got Yoshi, they found this guy, and he's the future. I mean, it's really what's going on with Nagowski. I mean, how many people were talking about Nagowski? Like, they did it. They cardinaled the Cardinals, right? They got this guy. He's the future, and he fell flat on his face. So I feel like the 3 home runs, right? I feel like this little bit of a solid start he's had with the Pirates is going to be a detriment to him, because people now feel like he's the guy. He's good, and he has produced for the Pirates. He hasn't produced anywhere else. Like, he's been very, very bad elsewhere. And now for these, what is it, like 18 at bats or something? Let me pull it up here. 18 plate appearances.
Yeah.
He's looked good. It's 18 plate appearances. So,
right.
I'm not expecting too much, but it is fun. It is fun. I don't know. I mean, if he finishes out the season as productive, though, do you look at possibly trying to sign him to another type of a deal? I mean, found success with the Pirates.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a possibility. Yeah, I mean, if it's something where if he shows he can hit here down the stretch, and you want to bring him back, and he's not going to be very expensive. If he even commands a major league deal, who knows? Depends on really how this last month goes. But yeah, and he, like I say, he's got a good power tool. He can hit the ball over the fence. If you were to give this guy 600 plate appearances, right? Which I don't know if that's ever a good idea. But if you were, like, he'd probably be a 30+ homer guy. Like, that's where his power's at.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of intriguing too, is he does, for the small bit of size he has gotten on base quite well too. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, even his rookie year, like his first year here in America, I mean, the average was low. Like, I mean, it was below 200, but once you kind of combine the on base percentage and the power, he was pretty much a league average hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, obviously, it fell off. Didn't start off well for him in Tampa Bay. Didn't really do much in LA. He was hitting the ball okay in AAA. So it was kind of just a regular year so far this year for him. But yeah, I mean, maybe he gets more playing time with the Pirates, and I mean, who knows? I don't know if people are gonna talk about Yoshi in a way like, oh, hey, we fleeced the Dodgers on this one. We got them to release him, and we signed him, and now we found this diamond in the rough. I don't know if, I mean, maybe there are some people out there who are doing that, but I think for the most part, people understand what we have here, and hopefully they don't overreact too much. But yeah, he certainly could be somebody who's in the mix to bring back next year. Like I said, especially with the power. I mean, that's what I've been saying this whole time, is like, there's no reason why you at least can't have power guys at first base and in the corner outfield. Like, how many times have we said, like, these people are a dime a dozen? Like, there are so many people out there where if you just throw them in the lineup and give them 500 at bats, they can hit 25+ homers, right? And the Pirates just seemingly don't have any of those people. Well, this is a guy who you do that with, right? Like, he's not going to provide you tons of value over the course of a year, but if you were to give this guy 500 bats, he's hitting 25+ homers. Like, he's going to do it. That's just what he's always done. So yeah, I guess you could throw him in the mix as somebody who's, potential option for that next year.
Yeah, I like it. Again, it's 18 plate appearances. He could fall off the face and be terrible like next week, right? But so far, what you're seeing, again, like that was part of the issue as well. He just hasn't looked like a good major league hitter, and so far he is. So there's still some intrigue, but again, at least he does provide that, where the other options that you mentioned really just haven't. So I am intrigued by it, and to go back, like you said, there's a reason the Rays paid him $6 million. Like, there has been something there, obviously. Maybe there's an adjustment. Maybe he can figure it out. Maybe it takes the 13 for him. I don't know. I'm not expecting it. Temper your expectation, everyone. But he is, to me at least, provides some intrigue. All right, so we talked about Chad Cole. We talked about Yoshi. A little bit of David Bednar. Do we want to talk about the guy who's not a Pirate anymore, but also is in the starting right field as of last night?
Goodness gracious. Yeah.
How terrible of a story was that non-story?
Exactly. Yeah. It ended up being just a complete non-story. I mean, if it's this, I know they changed the rules a little bit for those post-deadline deals, right? But like, remember back in the day, you would put everybody on waivers.
Everyone, right?
Like literally everybody you would put on waivers in August to see, okay, how many people can get through? Because if they get through, then you now have an August waiver trade candidate, right?
Yep.
And that's basically what happened here. Like, you can't trade these guys anymore, but the Pirates just put Polanco on waivers so that if anybody were to claim him, he would go to their team. But if nobody claims him, nothing happens. So, it was waiver rules can be very confusing at times, and even I don't understand, understand them. Like, if you want to get a refresher on kind of how all this stuff works, Ethan is like the Ethan Houlihan on Twitter. That's who you want to go to. He's had some pretty good breakdowns over the last few days about waivers and how they work. But I mean, this really was like a complete non-story. I think it's, if he's being placed on waivers, you can throw that out there, be like, hey, Polanco, just to let you know he's been placed on waivers. If another team claims him, it means that the Pirates are relieved of his salary, right? But like, if you would have just presented it that way, everybody would have been like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. So who cares? Right.
and like you said, this has been done before. It's not as if this is something new. It's not as like, well, it's the first time that, MLB implemented this new rule and Gregory Polanco is the first Pirate to be on it. It's simply waivers. He was put on waivers. The whole entire hoopla, like everything about the whole situation that was put out there was more or less like, he's done. He's done. Yeah. Unless no one claims him, then he could return to the Pirates under these stipulations and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the day, like you said, it just comes out that he was just put on waivers. That's it. Like nothing, there's nothing about this. Basically nothing was going to change. We didn't even need to hear about it, even though we could have, and it's fine if it was informed correctly. That's put on waivers and everyone would have understood and just moved forward. Because no one's, like you said, no one's taking I think it's $2.7 million remaining on his salary that they have to take on. No one's doing that. Plus obligated to the option next year. Yeah. No one's doing that. So if you just would have said he's on waivers, like you said, okay, well, it's not happening. So Polanco's still a Pirate. It's amazing. It just amazes me. But with that said, since we had a little discussion about it, if that were the case, right? If he was to move on or if he was to get let go or such, I mean, he's still a Pirate. So regardless, but is he really warranted still playing time down the stretch? Do you want to see other guys? Like what is Polanco's, I guess we can say his send-off, because we know it's not going to be, it is his last year as a Pirate. This is it.
Yeah. He, I mean, for as rough as it's been for him the last couple of years, it's even more rough this year. He's approaching -2 WAR. Like, that's not out of the question if you were to keep playing him, that he ends up being a -2 WAR player, which is just unbelievable. I, at this point, am I don't have a problem with them playing him necessarily, but at the same time, if they just stop playing him at least every day, I'd be completely fine with that too. He hasn't done anything to deserve the playing time, right? The only thing you can think of is, okay, well, is there anybody out there who does deserve the playing time? And there's not really anybody banging down the door,
Mm-hmm.
right, who is deserving of it. I'm fine though with, like, if they were to, like, hey, let's see more of Michael Chavis, or let's see more of Yoshi Tsutsugo, or Hoy Park. They bring him back up and they say, hey, let's see more of Hoy Park. Like, those things I'm completely fine with, because we just don't really know a lot about those guys. But I mean, as of right now, Gregory Polanco. We talk about Kevin Newman a lot being the worst hitter in Major League Baseball. Gregory Polanco is the worst player in Major League Baseball this year, like, according to wins above replacement. So, yeah, I mean, if you were to just bench him and make him a bench bat, I would have absolutely no issues with that. Like,
Right.
none whatsoever.
No, I completely agree with you. When the fake news came out, I really just was indifferent to it, and I feel like that is my case. Like, if the Pirates were, per se, to just flat out DFA him, to me, and again, this is I like Gregory Polanco. I've always pulled for him. I've always rooted for him. He seems like a good guy. The talent just really isn't there, unfortunately. And if the Pirates did eventually DFA him, to me, it is what it is. I wouldn't be angry. I wouldn't be happy. It just, the writing's on the wall. He's not that good. Like you said, he is the worst player in baseball, right? So it just is what it is. The issue is that there is no one that, like, you're not going, what's the outcome? Like, at what expense are you DFAing him? There's no one that you're, like, wanting to play. It's not as if if Swaggerty was still healthy, right? Like, that would be the move. Like, okay, you DFA Swagger or DFA Polanco, you call up Swaggerty, and you're gonna let him see at bats and such. But, like, there is no one that you're wanting to give those at bats to that is also deserving of it. So you're just DFAing him to DFA him. And that's where I'm with you. It's not as if anyone's knocking on the door, but going forward, okay, Hoy Park was that guy. Like, you're going to give him every at-bat that you can because you want to see as much from him. He has been optioned down. He has struggled. I get the option. I'm cool with it. But with Hoy Park going down, right, and Castro going down, what you do have is Michael Chavis up. So Chavis now becomes, to me, that Hoy Park. Like, now Chavis is a guy that you want to get as many at-bats to see what he's got. Whether he's worked on whatever it is that he needs in AAA or such, right, in Indianapolis. Like, he's in the majors, you give him those at-bats. So Chavis in the lineup, right? Yoshi's in the lineup, as you mentioned. Like all these guys can get in the lineup, and it's going to be at the expense of, to me, Polanco being on the bench. Like, he's now that fourth, or as you joke, if they're already, he's now a fifth outfielder, because you're going to give all those guys those opportunities. There's no need to give Gregory Polanco opportunities, opposed to just actually giving people days off. He's a great clubhouse guy, so him being around, that's good, but he doesn't have to be playing. And unfortunately, that's where I'm at as well.
Yeah, I guess, when it comes to if they were to DFA him, being indifferent, I do think, like, at this point of the year, I would be a little disappointed, and I even shared it when we thought he was gone, right? I would be disappointed in them DFAing him at this point in the year. Like, there's no reason why they can't at least let him ride out his contract, I think. Because I think there is value to be had in having a good clubhouse guy, right? I mean, I know the on-field product has been terrible, but, like, there is some value in having a guy who, your team really likes. And like I said, this team's bad. Like, the team is bad all around. So it's like, okay, well, what's having this one bad guy? But as long as everybody kind of likes him and gets along with him, and he keeps things fun, then there's maybe some value there. So I would be a little disappointed if they were to DFA him, with this late in the year. And the reason being is there's not really a lot of people out there who I'm like, you know what, Gregory Polanco is taking away chances from so and so.
Right.
Like if it's like, hey, we're going to DFA Gregory Polanco so that Anthony Alford can get playing time, then like that I would be a little upset with. Because like why no, like Anthony Alford's terrible. We don't need to do that. But if it was something where let's say if Matt Frazier was in AAA right now and he's crushing the ball, and it's like, you know what, we're gonna DFA Polanco and we're gonna bring up Matt Frazier these last few weeks of the year, then I would be cool with it, right? So it's just kind of depends on the situation. But like with the way that the roster's structured right now and what's out there and what's available to be called up from the minors, there's just, I don't see the point in DFAing him.
I mean, I can't argue it. Like I said, I am indifferent. I couldn't argue either side, because if it happened, I would just move forward and I understand it. And if it doesn't happen for all the reasons you just said, I also understand and I'm cool with it as well. It's not as if there's anyone. And right, I forgot about Alford. That just, the show was actually going pretty good this morning, and then you brought up Alford. And again, I know it sounds like you, especially you get all the heat, but it sounds like you hate him. But right, like just nothing intrigues me about Alford anymore at all. So right, that would be the point I was making. If the Pirates DFA'd, Polanco just to do it, right, and it's at the expense to see more Alford, just keep Polanco. But Chavis, Swagger, like you mentioned, Frazier, like those are the type of guys that, okay, like let's see them, let's give them the opportunities. So regardless, though, we'll move forward from that. Polanco is a Pirate. Sounds like he's probably going to be a Pirate for the rest of the season. And then with that being said, right, like I'm cool with, he's on the club. He's a great clubhouse guy. I think he understands to where he's at. Not that he's okay with it. I'm sure there's a level of frustration, but it just is what he is right now. And he's got a lot of talent, but I don't know how much that shoulder injury really, really played into more or less the ending of his career. But yeah, just keep him on the club. He's your fourth, fifth outfielder this time. He spells guys. He's a pinch hitter. Give all the other people opportunities, because Reynolds and Gamble are playing well. They're there. They're not moving. Mm-hmm. So anyways, all right. Any other words you have about Polanco or anyone else in the club, or do we want to talk about some prospects?
Let's talk about one other guy. And just because of what he's done, recently, Kevin Newman.
Yes. Okay.
I feel like he deserves a little bit of credit here. And it really just has to do with, if you watched the game last night, he was excellent defensively. He's the best shortstop this team's had since Clint Barmas. Defensively, he's just been lights out, making plays that I just didn't even think he was capable of making. But in the month of August, right, we talk about just how bad he's been as a hitter. But in the month of August, 296, 339, 519. He's got a 122 weighted runs created plus. Talk me down the ledge here, Donardo, but if Newman does this for August and September, like I was thinking this was a guy who was like no chance of being on this club next year, but
right. Okay.
He now has a positive WAR. Like it's at least positive. It's 0.3. He's hitting again. Like he's hitting again, and the defense has been spectacular. Like talk me off this ledge here, but
okay.
Is Kevin Newman back?
Let me play devil's advocate, but also give you my viewpoint on this also as well. Okay. Because 3 weeks ago, this guy was a non-tender candidate. Probably also seen his last days as a Pirate. He's the worst shortstop in baseball. As we talked about with Polanco, everything was the same for Newman. He actually is the worst hitter in baseball, but he's also like production-wise, as far as WAR goes, like he's been the worst shortstop in baseball. Right. So I'm pushing you off the ledge. We're holding hands. We're jumping off together. That's Kevin Newman's not a Pirate anymore. He's terrible. He's garbage. Move forward. Right. That was our mindset. But you're correct. We have to give him credit. For as much as we've trashed him, we should give him credit when he is producing. His defense has come out of nowhere this year. Like his entire career was his MO is he can hit. He can hit for average. He's great contact. His defense isn't there, but it's passable, right? Like he can play short probably. Maybe he moves to second base long term, you know? And then this year, like the defense has been spectacular. As everything we're talking about how terrible his hitting is, it's been like the complete opposite as far as fielding goes. He's been like one of the better defensive shortstops in baseball, period. One of the better defenders in baseball. So, like you said, at least he has that. But it's not as if there's been a nice compromise where the bat's still not there, but it's okay enough for him to be there. Like it's been so bad that even with that great defense, he needs to be gone. But yes, Jim, things have definitely changed. He has not only become a good enough hitter, he's become a good hitter. Like as you mentioned in the month of August, a 122 weighted run created plus. So he's 22% better than average. But the ball's been going in the air. Like that's one thing I've noticed as well. Like it actually has been going in the air. Not all of his slugging has come from like the Adam Frazier bloop, right? Or it's hit right perfectly down the line that he gets a double out of it. He has shown a bit of actual pop. Like you hear the bat make a pop when it hits now. I don't know if he has made an actual change. That's something I'm intrigued on. What if he's just like scrap all of this stuff and I'm going to this now approach or this, whatever, this new swing. I haven't really looked too much into that, but he looks different. He's played different. What I'm fearing is, I made a joke about it on Twitter, but what I'm fearing is Kevin Newman going to be the new Polanco? Like, is he Polancoing us, right? You write him off, and now Kevin Newman's having this hot month. You're like, let's keep him for next year. And he's going to come in next year and be terrible, and then have this month, and you're like, all right, well, let's keep him for next year. So that's where I'm going to play devil's advocate. That's where I'm going to talk you off the ledge now. Haven't we seen enough to say that we know what Kevin Newman is now? That this hot stretch of 59 plate appearances isn't going to change anything, Jim?
So you mentioned, like, has anything changed, right? Because I think that's what you can kind of look at. Like, has something changed? And you mentioned the fly balls. He's hitting the ball in the air, and the numbers back that up. So, going into this month, his fly ball percentage, 31, 31, 30, those were his percentages. This month it's 42. He's also, this has been his best month as far as line drives percentage. He is hitting the ball harder. His hard hit percentage is higher this month than any month. So the exit, like the exit velocity and the launch angle stuff is kind of supporting his good month, right? I don't know. I'm to the like I actually want to see more of him. So that's my thing. Like I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what? I don't want to bench him. I want to see Kevin Newman play every day.
We finally got him to the bench, Jim. We finally did it.
No, like I want to see him now every game from here on out. And if he can replicate his August performance, finish it up this month and do it in September. Here's a couple things. If he does this, right? Because we talked about how far back he was as far as like the worst hitter in baseball. Well, guess what? He's still the worst hitter in baseball, but it's really close. Like it's actually
you hear yourself though. He is the worst hitter, but it's close now to being the second worst.
It is. Like he's only a little bit behind Nick Ahmed and Elvis Andrus. Right?
I mean, that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Here's the
Okay.
thing, though. His defense is way better than like both of those guys. So like if you can, if I don't know, if Kevin Newman can put another month where he's like 120 weighted runs created plus hitter, he's finishing the year probably somewhere around 65, right? And clearly that's not going to cut it, right? But like in a perfect world, if Kevin Newman's giving you this amount of defense, right? And he's even just like a 90 weighted runs created plus guy, then he's like a 2+ WAR player. So I don't know. Give him every start from here on out. Let's see if he's figured it out.
So here's where I'm at.
Because who else are you gonna play?
There you go. That's it. So I joked about he's gonna Polanco us, but he is in that Polanco situation. It's why he's been given all the opportunities to still have these at bats and be the worst player in baseball. There's no one that's knocking on the door either for him. It's not as if it's like, well, if you don't, right, like you got to get Kevin Newman out of there because Cole Tucker's in AAA, right? That's not a thing. So I almost felt, even before this 3 weeks, even though I was saying he's a non-tender guy, I almost felt as if we probably still would see Kevin Newman next year as a Pirate. Because, I mean, who else do you really have there anyways? Because he's doing what he's doing right now. And like you said, especially if he finishes it, I think it's a no-brainer he will be a Pirate. Because of all the things we talked about. I mean, he does have the pedigree. He does have the 2019 season. Like, he does have something behind him. It's not as if he just came up to the MLBs and did what he did last year and then all this year up until 3 weeks ago, right? So he has a history at least. And I think that history with his defense and these 2 months, right, that can come up will be enough to keep him around next year because still, there's no Nick Gonzalez, there's no McGarrett, there's nothing there. And it's not Cole Tucker either. He's not that guy. So I think all of that has everything for Kevin Newman to return. I'm not opposed of it. As you said, give him all the opportunities. Well, now, of course, that Hoy Park's gone. Yeah. Like, I hope Kevin Newman makes like me look like an idiot. You know, I hope he does it. That would be in the club's best interest. Good for him. I don't believe in it, but if he does this, you give him the opportunity to come back again next year and see what he does. But again, like that is the thing, and that's why I'm more willing. It's not as if he's gotten lucky and the numbers are turned around. There has been a change. Now, I don't know if the change has been luck. Like, I don't know if the ball is just going in the air, right? It's a small sample size, or if he's physically fundamentally changed something to produce that. But he is looking different.
All right.
All right.
Shortstop of the future.
You know, for 3 months, bench Kevin Newman. He gets benched, and then like in 2 days later, he becomes the greatest hitter ever as a shortstop.
Yep.
All right. Great. All right, we down the prospects now.
Yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, prospects.
All right, I don't know why this isn't working. Whatever. We won't have our transition. All right, let's talk about prospects then. So, yeah, I'll give you the floor, Jim. I know this is really your thing, and there's a prospect that you like that Bucko Mike doesn't like that you really want to talk about. So, let's go.
Yeah. We won't spend too much time on the prospects today, but I think Nick Gonzalez definitely deserves some highlighting here. Just been on an absolute tear, and you know, we kind of called him out a little bit ago as far as like, hey, this is an advanced hitter. He really needs to start showing that, you know, he's dominating high A ball. Like that shouldn't be an issue for him. And we're there. Like we are there. He's now on the year. Let me pull up his numbers here. But you know, after another good week, he's now hitting 298, a 368 on base percentage, 514 slugging percentage, 10 home runs, in 272 plate appearances. So he is now showing that, you know, he he can hit high A pitching. The strikeouts are down. He was in the 30s before. He's now high 20s, still higher than what you want to see, but he is getting that number down. But if you look at, if you look at his just last month, going back to, today's August 22nd. So let's take it to, July 20th.
I was going to say,
right?
actually, what I have here, I pull up since 7/16 because here's the thing. We talked about him last week over like the last month.
Okay.
And like how good those numbers were.
So,
and
got it. Cool with that. So to go from where he was, 13th,
but
yeah. So that's 31 games. So over 31 games, he's got, he's hitting 375, 441 on base percentage. He's slugging 602. That's an OPS of 1,042. Weighted runs created plus of 177. So he's now put together a month stretch where he's demonstrating he is an elite hitter in this league. Minor league seasons don't last as long as major league seasons. I want to see him go to Double A at this point. Like I feel like that was his original, track where, all things perfect. He starts the season in High A, ends it in Double A, kind of going that Pedro Alvarez route, right, as a college hitter. And I think he's to that point where they should do it. I guess we'll find out today, really, if he's been promoted or not. They usually do that on Tuesdays because it's just kind of the new series start date. But gosh, I think he's shown what he can show in High A. Like I said, the injuries kind of derailed him at the beginning part of the year, and I think hopefully that's all it was, in terms of like just figuring it out and kind of getting in a groove. But the dude's in a groove now. I mean, he's crushing the ball.
It's been very exciting to see because there's been a lot of hopes about Nick Gonzalez, for all the things you said. For the fact that I think a lot of people felt like he fell in the draft, right? The Pirates were able to land him, with their pick. The fact he's a college hitter, can get here quickly. There's a lot of expectations for him. He came into the season and injuries did plague him. Very, very slow starts. You have people like Bucko Mike saying he's a bust. He can't hit above 260. Regardless of all the other numbers around it, right? Batting average was the one and only stat some people looked at. He's doing everything now. The strikeouts are down, which is also, like as you mentioned last week, very, very intriguing. It's good to see. So last week when we talked about him, I said, much like Polanco, I was indifferent. If he stays in Double A, I'm okay. If he moves up, I'm okay. I'm not pounding on the door because he missed so much time and such. There's just a little bit left of the season anyways. But here's the thing. Since then, right? Since last week, Jim, since I said I was indifferent, he's only got a 210 weighted run created plus. He's only been twice as good as everyone else. He's batting 444 as of last week. You know what? Let's do it. What's he have to prove, I guess, in the next few weeks with Double A? I'm cool with it. Let's get him up there in Double A. Let's did I say Double A, Single A, whatever. Let's get him up in Double A. Let's get him some at bats. Get him prepped for next year. Because if he's doing this, like he deserves. Let's get him up there where everyone else is aligned at, right? Let's get him in Double A at least. Give him a little bit of, I guess, experience, right? Tasting the better pitching. But he's killing it. He is. He's doing everything and more that you want to see from Nick Gonzalez at this point in time over like the past 5 weeks.
Yeah, he's like, I think it just comes down to like you want to see some sustained success at your level. And he has shown that. He's now to the point where, I mean, he's over a month now where he's dominated High A pitching. So let's move him on to the next step.
I'm for it.
Similarly, with what they did with, I think there's really only one other guy I want to talk about here, but similarly with what they did with Matthew Frazier. So same thing, dominated High A ball, right? He just did it a little bit quicker than Gonzalez. He didn't really have too many injuries this year, so he was kind of on track from the get-go. And goodness gracious, this guy's been just tearing up Double A ball too. In his 16 games since being promoted to the curve, he's hitting 379, 422 on base percentage, 690 slugging percentage. He's an extra base machine. 2 home runs, 6 doubles, 3 triples. The guy had more. He has 11 extra base hits and 11 singles. Like the dude can hit, just flat out hit.
Right.
Like this is such a good story. I mean, he by far and away the minor league player of the year in this organization. Like there's no one else even touching him. Gosh, he's just crushing the ball, and it's so refreshing to see.
It is, and what I'm going to allude to here is right. Like he got the call up, and he's doing better in Double A than he was in. Like he was doing great in High A. Talk of the town, talk everyone. Like Matt Frazier, look what he's doing. Great in High A, and he goes to Double A, and he does better in Double A. He's doing better now than he was in Single A. So, man, I'm telling you, like I'm through the roof with this guy. You know, we talked about like what his prospect status would be and such. I guess we didn't talk about that too much. MLB did release their top prospects, and it was that day, I believe, later on that day, and they did place Frazier in there. Where is he? Because I forget. Was he 19?
Yeah, I think he was somewhere around 18, 19 in that area.
Why didn't this have?
Which kind of goes to what we said. Like we didn't think he was going to be near the top of any list. But yeah, and in Baseball America, they have their update. He's 26th on Baseball America's. You looking like up the pipeline?
I'm on Pipeline. For some reason, it's not there. I don't know if they didn't like post it to the site. I don't know.
They didn't update it. Yeah.
But either way, that's where I maybe a little bit higher, of course, than at Baseball America. But that's kind of where I'm at with him, and I can understand. He's
23 pipeline.
Okay. He's came out of nowhere, right? So like you probably want, it's one of those things like you want to see it again. But I'm so intrigued by this guy. I'm so intrigued. I cannot wait for next year to see if he, does this in AAA, and then if he does, like he's in the majors next year, as you mentioned. He is there. That's going to be fun because this is finally like a guy who just for the Pirates comes out of nowhere and can potentially be a good player. So I don't know, but there's a lot to love about Matt Frazier, and again, like he's doing everything again. Like the strikeouts aren't there. He's hitting everywhere. He's hitting for power. Like I guess the one downside is he's not walking as much because he's just hitting everything.
Yeah, right. I mean, at this point, I'm okay with that because he's hitting 380. So
right.
It's like you really need to walk when you're hitting 380.
Like in a High A, his walk percentage was 12.3, and now it's down to 4.7. But his on base is higher. It's 20 points higher. He's not walking because simply he just hits everything instead. Who needs to walk when I can get a double?
Yeah, I mean he's just driving the ball. Like you see the highlights at luckily the Altoona Curve account has been great, posting highlights and stuff. So I mean he's driving the ball to all fields. He's hitting the ball off the left center field wall. The guy has a sweet swing, and he I think Pirates fans should be pretty excited about him.
I am. And this isn't an opportunity. I'm going to say this isn't me trying to have an opportunity to knock on Mason Martin, but for all the talk and love that we've been giving Mason Martin and such, Matt Frazier's your home run leader. He's got more home runs than Mason Martin. So like, there's that. He is literally doing it. He's hitting for average. He's getting on base, hitting for power. Like this guy, and according to people, he's a really, really good defender. Like this is a 5-tool guy that you're looking at right now.
Yeah. And he doesn't strike out like Martin does. So like everything you want to see in like a corner outfielder, like you're seeing out of Matt Frazier. I
don't think there's much more you could see. Like what more could you expect or want from anyone? Right. That's the level of production he's giving. Like that's what's so crazy. It's not as if he's he's playing good, and he's moving some guy, moving on the radar, such like he's just you can't ask for anything better. Period. All right. Yeah. So I guess I don't know. Anything else that you wanted to talk as far as prospects?
I think that'll do it. Just wanted to kind of touch on those two.
So maybe just the highlights. Cruz is back. Ronesy's coming back. Yahuri has made his AAA rehab. So I guess the one thing is the negative things about the prospects, right? The guys that were injured, and right away we felt like, okay, great. Here's Tommy John coming up. They're all good. They've escaped, which is also, well, I guess you're fine because they weren't in the 40-man. Yahuri's case, your Tommy John over and under is looking pretty good then.
That's true.
So
yeah, let's keep it going.
Right. So yeah, that's really good news. Even though they don't finish the seasons, and you're not talking about Ronesy in the sense of he got the promotion and he's looked outstanding, we at least get to talk about these guys are healthy. There's no surgery, so that's very, very good news. So we can end there, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. All right. Well, then Pirates will be playing the Diamondbacks again, and then they got the Cardinals again, and we'll be on NS9 Live Thursday. So we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.
See you guys.